June 18th, 2025. Welcome back to the show, my friends. Well, I got through a really sad interview that the CBC did with the paternal grandmother of Jack and Lily, Cody's mother. That's not what we're here talking about. I can't get out of my mind right now the inconsistencies in Malaya and Daniel's story the morning that they called 911 emergency services reporting the kids missing. Above and beyond everything else, before you call 911, something in your mind triggers that there's an emergency. And it's always going to be different. She never mentions that. She just says immediately, I knew I had to call 911 immediately. Like, that's a big step. How do you know what's going on already enough to inform 911 of your emergency situation? Lots of people can't find their kids. A lot of people just go and look for them. Why didn't you? So on one hand, we've been told that they searched for a long period of time, could not find them. But when it comes to reporting them missing, it was really right away, because Daniel says that he ran back to the home in the bush, which only takes 30 seconds. And before he got back, Malaya was on the phone to 911. So what triggered Malaya to call 911? She never says. She just had the instinct to call 911. You pranked 911 because you didn't really know. A little breakdown prepared. Just give me a moment here. The disappearance of Lily, 6, and Jack Sullivan, 4, from their home on Garlock Road in Landown Station, Piktu County, Nova Scotia, on May 2nd, 2025, has raised significant questions due to inconsistencies in the account provided by their mother, Malaya Brooks-Murray, and stepfather, Daniel Martell. The parents' narrative about the morning of disappearance, particularly Malaya's claim that she instinctually called 911 before Daniel returned from searching, presents several conflicts and implausibilities that challenge its credibility. Now, this little analysis explores why these inconsistencies exist, delves into the unrealistic aspects of Malaya's story, and examines what might have prompted her to immediately call 911, contrasting this instance with typical scenarios where parents might search for their children before involving emergency services. Now let's start with the conflicts in the parents' stories. The parents' accounts of the morning of May 2nd, 2025 contain several discrepancies that have fueled skepticism among investigators, the public and media outlets as well. Malaya told CTV News that she woke to the sound of the children playing, briefly fell back asleep, and upon waking again noticed they were gone, prompting her to call 911 around 10 a.m. She claimed this was an instinctive reaction. However, Daniel Martell told the Chronicle Herald that he and Malaya were in bed with their baby, heard Jack in the kitchen, and saw Lily enter the bedroom multiple times. When the house became quiet, Daniel went to check, noticed the sliding door was closed, but the children's boots were gone, and began searching outside before returning to find the RCMP already present, called by Malaya. The conflict lies in the timing. Malaya's account suggests she called 911 almost immediately, and this almost immediately after noticing the children's absence, while Daniel's narrative implies he had time to check the house, notice the missing boots, and began searching outside before the police arrived. This raises questions about how Malaya could have called 911 before Daniel returned if they were both reacting to the same moment of silence. Malaya's statement emphasizes her immediate instinct to call 911, suggesting an unusual sense of urgency. In contrast, Daniel describes a more methodical response, checking the house, noting the sliding door and searching nearby roads and culverts before returning. His account suggests a belief that the children might have wandered off, which aligns with the initial RCMP theory. Well, Malaya's rapid 911 call implies she suspected something more serious from the outset. The divergence in their reactions is notable. Daniel's actions reflect a typical parental response to children momentarily out of sight, while Malaya's immediate escalation to emergency services seemed to disproportionate. What? Seems disproportionate. Excuse me. Easy for me to say. Where's my mind this morning? I apologize. Let me reread that for you. The divergence in their reactions is notable. Daniel's actions reflect a typical parental response to children momentarily out of sight, while Malaya's immediate escalation to emergency services seemed disproportionate, unless she had specific reason to fear the worst. Sometimes my mind just hates to read certain words. It's like a block. I don't want to finish the word for whatever reason. I don't know why. It's I have to... I don't know what that is. My mind knows the word. I know what it means, but it spells it different. So when I see it spelled differently than I do, it confuses me. I think that's what it is. Anyway, I'm back, friends. It's okay. I'm fine. So, in the context of the children's behavior, both parents noted that Lily and Jack were home from school due to Lily's cough, having also been absent the previous day and on April 30th for Professional Development Day. Martell claimed the children, who may have mild autism, did not typically stray far from home. Yet Malaya's 911 call suggests she believed they were in immediate danger, despite no prior indication in their accounts that the children had a history of wandering off unaccompanied. The parents claim that the children slipped out of a silent sliding door while they were distracted with their baby is plausible but lacks supporting evidence, such as footprints or sightings, especially given the extensive searches that followed. The absence of physical evidence, like Lily's distinctive strawberry backpack, further complicates their story. In reference to their post-disappearance behavior, Malaya left the area the day after the disappearance to stay with her family in Colchester County, reportedly ceasing communication with Daniel and blocking him on social media. This abrupt departure and severed contact raises questions about her emotional state and relationship with Daniel, potentially indicating tension or suspicion. Daniel remained at the home, engaging with media search efforts, while Malaya's limited public presence and refusal to speak further on police advice contrast with her initial statements. Family tensions escalated, with Malaya's relatives accusing Daniel of involvement, adding that the perception of conflicting narratives within the household. These dynamics suggest underlying issues that may have influenced the parents' differing accounts. Now let's get into the unrealistic aspects of Malaya's instinctual 911 call. Malaya's claim that she instinctually called 911 before Daniel returned from searching is unrealistic for several reasons, particularly when viewed in the context of typical parental behavior and the specifics of this case. So there's first premature escalation to emergency services. Parents typically search for their children themselves before calling 911, especially in a rural setting where children might wander into the yard or nearby woods. Malaya's immediate call suggests she bypassed standard steps like checking the house, yard, or nearby areas. Her claim that she acted on instinct implies an extraordinary sense of danger, yet she provided no specific reason, such as a history of children wandering off or external threats, to justify this urgency. In contrast, Daniel's account of searching roads and culverts aligns with a more expected response, suggesting he believed the children were nearby. Malaya's decision to call 911 before he returned implies she acted independently, possibly before they could coordinate the response, which is unusual for partners in a shared household. There's lack of contextual triggers. Malaya's narrative does not mention any specific event or observation that would prompt an immediate 911 call. For example, she did not report hearing a vehicle, seeing an open gate, or noticing signs of forced entry. The children's boots and Lily's backpack were missing, but these details were noted by Daniel, not Malaya, in the initial accounts. If the children had wandered off previously, Malaya might have mentioned this to explain her urgency, but both parents emphasized that Lily and Jack were not prone to leaving unaccompanied. Without a clear trigger, her instinctual call appears disproportionate to the situation as described. Now, inconsistency with past behavior. Malaya described Lily and Jack as go-lucky and friendly, suggesting they were sociable but not reckless. This is no indication in the parents' accounts that the children had ever left the house alone before, which would make Malaya's immediate fear of an emergency less plausible. In typical scenarios, parents might assume their children are hiding or playing nearby, especially in a family environment like their home. The grandmother's interview the grandmother's interview highlights Malaya's calm and patient parenting style, noting she never raised her voice at the children. This was from a CBC interview from last night, by the way. I haven't released that yet, but we'll go watch that. Not in this video, in the next. The characterization contrasts with the panicked decision to call 911 without first searching, suggesting a deviation from her usual composed demeanor. If Daniel was already searching outside, as he claimed, Malaya's call to 911 would have occurred within a very narrow time frame, potentially minutes, after noticing the children's absence. This rapid escalation is logistically challenging, as it implies she did not attempt to contact Daniel, check the property, or wait for his return before involving the police. The RCMP's arrival by the time Daniel returned further compresses the timeline, raising questions about how quickly Malaya acted. Now, of course, that brings you to the question, what prompted the immediate 911 call? Several factors could explain this. Several factors could explain Malaya's decision to call 911 immediately, though none fully align with the parents' narrative. Unspoken fear or knowledge. Malaya may have had a specific reason to suspect foul play, such as a recent threat, suspicious activity in the area, or concerns about someone in their circle. However, no such context was provided in her statements or the RCMP's reports, which consistently stated there was no evidence of abduction. Alternatively, she might have had the private concerns about Daniel's behavior or involvement, prompting her to involve authorities quickly. Her subsequent departure and cessation of contact with Daniel suggest plausible or possible distrust, though this is speculative. Malaya's rapid call could reflect heightened anxiety or guilt, perhaps due to the children being unsupervised while she was distracted with the baby. Her statement about always thinking the worst as a mother hints at the underlying fear that may have driven her actions. The grandmother's observation of Malaya's non-emotional and monotone demeanor during the crisis suggests she may have been in shock or suppressing emotions, which could have influenced her decision to call 911 as a reflexive action. Malaya may have been advised by someone else, perhaps a family member or neighbor, to call 911 immediately. The presence of Daniel's mother on the property, living in a camper, raises the possibility that another adult was involved in the decision. However, no such involvement was mentioned in the parents' accounts. Now, let me sum this up a little bit. Let me sum this up for you. In conclusion, the conflicts in Malaya and Daniel's account, particularly Malaya's instinctual 911 call before Daniel's return, stem from inconsistencies in timing, differing reactions, and a lack of supporting evidence. Malaya's story is unrealistic due to its premature escalation, absence of clear triggers, and deviation from expected parental behavior. Her immediate call to 911 suggests an unstated fear or knowledge, possibly driven by emotional distress or underlying tensions, but these remain speculative without further evidence. The differences from typical scenarios underscore the peculiarities of the case, contributing to ongoing suspicion and scrutiny. Now, we see this little snippet came from, I was watching an Evil Exists video that was released yesterday titled Daniel Slipped Up, from his new interview, which I haven't seen, by the way. I just saw this clip off of Evil Exists video. We'll have a look. It's 2 minutes and 57 seconds.
Of the siblings and Jack Sullivan are still missing, and sadly there are no solid leads or confirmed sightings of the siblings since May 1st. The day before they were reported missing by their mother and stepfather, the children were seen on camera. However, there is a massive time gap between this time and the time they were reported missing, so what really happened has yet to come to light. It is highly unusual that not one but two children go missing from a remote location, no evidence of them wandering into the woods, or that an abduction has taken place. So, what is left? I would say foul play. Daniel Martell, the stepfather, as many are calling him, has been under intense scrutiny, as well as the children's mother. The interesting thing is that Daniel keeps talking. The more he talks, the more red flags and inconsistencies I see. Well, he did another interview that was put out about 2 hours ago, and yet another inconsistency is picked up. During the one and only on-camera interview Malaya did, she said that the kids were outside playing, but they weren't aware of it at the time. The next thing they knew it was quiet, they get up. She asks her partner, Daniel, if he hears the kids. He says no. They get up instantly, they're looking outside, they're looking everywhere, and then she instantly just calls 911. The word instantly and her frequent use of it bothers me, and makes me think it wasn't as instant as she would like us to think. Anyway, Daniel has a little bit of a different story about how that morning went down now. He says he wasn't in a deep sleep by any means. About 20 minutes passed. When he woke up, Malaya was right beside him, and she was still asleep. Now he was the one that said he didn't hear Lily and Jack while she was still asleep. So, now she was still sleeping, well he didn't hear the kids, and ran out to check their cabin out in the woods, which took him like 30 seconds. When he came back down, Malaya was on the phone with the RCMP.
And they were outside playing, but we weren't aware of it at the time, and the next thing we knew, it was quiet, and we get up and I tell him, my partner, Daniel, I tell him, do you hear the kids? And he says, no. And we get up instantly, we're looking outside, we're looking everywhere, yelling for them, and I instantly just call 911. I just had the instinct I needed to call.
Malaya and the baby were asleep. Lily came in multiple times. I was not in deep sleep by any means. And then about 20 minutes passed, and then when I woke up, Malaya was right beside me. She was still asleep. And I said, I don't hear Lily and Jack.
The time, no one will say for sure, but police say it was around 10 a.m. when they got a 911 call.
I ran up in the woods to the kids. They have cabins up in the woods, which only took me like 30 seconds. I came right back down. She was on the phone with the RCMP.
Sure, but police say it was...
I have such a hard time believing this story because of how unaligned both of their stories are. What was it that made you call 911? How did you know it was an emergency? One moment you hear it, the next you don't. Like, they're making it look like they really did just vanish. You're quoting time frames now. You were drifting in out of sleep. Listen, it seems to me more like they're trying to fabricate something that's somewhat plausible in the moment. I don't believe for a second you guys were asleep. You either know or you don't know. Which one is it? What are you doing sleeping until 10 a.m. when your kids are up and rooting into things? Getting into all kinds of trickery potentially. Tomfoolery. Things that are going to make you irate as a parent. One minute you hear them, the next you don't. And you don't hear anything else? Man, it's so hard to believe. So hard to believe. So I appreciated this video from Evil Exists. Because it's right now, from the public perspective, a real key piece of evidence to show you and tell you that something's not right. According to this video, Evil Exists video, Malaya and Daniel provided differing descriptions of the events leading up to the 911 call in the morning of May 2nd, 2025. The children were last seen on camera on May 1st, 2025, with a significant time gap before they were reported missing. Evil Exists highlights the lack of solid leads, confirmed sightings, or physical evidence. Example, no signs of wandering into the woods or abduction. Suggests possible foul play. The parents' accounts, particularly Malaya's claim of instantly calling 911 and Daniel's description of his actions, contain discrepancies that raise red flags. So in Malaya's account, Malaya stated in her only on-camera interview that she and Daniel were unaware the children were playing outside. Well, then how can you say that they were playing outside if you were unaware of it? They were outside and we were unaware of it. You mean at the time? You're aware of it now, so at what point did you start to become aware of that they were outside, but yet you're sitting here telling everybody that you were unaware that they were outside? Do you see how much of a problem that statement is? Malaya stated in her only online camera interview that she and Daniel were unaware the children were playing outside. When the house became quiet, she asked Daniel if he heard the children, to which he replied no. They instantly got up. As opposed to instantly getting up when you hear the kids, they should probably get up when you hear the kids. That's usually what happens. Anyway. Instantly got up, looked outside, searched everywhere, and yelled for the children. Malaya then instantly called 911, citing an instinct that prompted her to contact emergency services around 10 a.m. Now, in Daniel's account, in a more recent interview, the one that you saw here just a moment ago, Daniel stated he was not in a deep sleep. He noted that, I think he walks around in a deep sleep, in a half-slumbered state of mind. He noted that Lily came into the bedroom multiple times while he, Malaya, and their baby were in bed. About 20 minutes after last hearing the children, how do you know it was 20 minutes? He woke up. You woke up after 20 minutes, so you were timing how long you were unconscious? That seems implausible. About 20 minutes after last hearing the children, he woke up, realized Malaya was still asleep beside him, and noted that he could no longer hear Lily and Jack. He ran to check the children's cabins in the woods, which took about 30 seconds, and he returned to find Malaya already on the phone with the RCMP. On the phone, or were they already there? The parents' narratives diverge in several critical areas, creating inconsistencies that undermine the coherence of their story. So below, or in a moment, here are the primary conflicts identified in the video. So the conflict is timing and sequence of the events. Malaya claims she and Daniel both noticed the house was quiet, prompting them to get up instantly to search, and her call to 911. In contrast, Daniel states that Malaya was still asleep when he noticed the children's absence, checked the woods, and returned to find her already on the phone with the RCMP. Now, Malaya's account suggests a coordinated response where both parents reacted simultaneously to the silence, searched together, and then she called 911. She emphasizes the immediacy of her actions with the word instantly. Daniel's account indicates he acted alone while Malaya was asleep. He noticed the silence, checked the woods, a 30-second trip, and only upon returning found Malaya on the phone with the RCMP. This implies Malaya called 911 within a very short time frame, potentially less than 1 minute, while Daniel was briefly absent. The timelines are incompatible. If Malaya was asleep when Daniel left to check the woods, she could not have simultaneously asked him if he heard the children or searched with him before calling 911. The rapid transition from Malaya being asleep to making the 911 call raises questions about whether she had time to wake, assess the situation, and contact emergency services. There's another one. The awareness of the children's absence. Another conflict here. Malaya describes a mutual realization with Daniel that the house was quiet, leading to a joint search effort. Daniel, however, claims he alone noticed the absence of noise while Malaya was still asleep. Now, in Malaya's statement, and I quote, "I tell him, 'Do you hear the kids?' And he says no," implies a conversation occurred while both were awake. She frames their response as a collaborative effort. We get up instantly. We are looking outside. We are looking everywhere. Daniel contradicts this, stating Malaya was right beside him, or right beside me. And I'm quoting, "Malaya was right beside me. She was still asleep, and I said, 'I don't hear Lily and Jack.'" This suggests he made the observation independently, without a dialogue with Malaya, and she was not awake to participate. There's no L in participate. The discrepancy in who initiated the realization of the children's absence undermines the parents' credibility. Malaya's account requires her to be awake and engaged, while Daniel suggests she was unaware until after he checked the woods. This conflict casts doubt on whether they coordinated their actions as Malaya described. So there's another conflict, and that's one with Malaya's instant 911 call. Now, the conflict is Malaya's repeated use of instantly to describe her decision to call 911 contradicts with Daniel's account, which implies a brief delay during the search. Now, Evil Exists questions the plausibility of her immediate action. So Malaya claims she called 911 instantly after searching and yelling for the children, driven by an instinct. The RCMP received the call around 10 a.m. Daniel's account introduces a gap. He left to check on the cabins for 30 seconds. And Malaya was already on the phone with the RCMP when he returned. If Malaya was asleep when he left, she would have needed to wake, realize the children were missing, and call 911 within an improbably short time. Now, Evil Exists found Malaya's use of instantly suspicious, suggesting it may be an attempt to portray urgency that doesn't align with the timeline. The rapid call is unrealistic if Daniel's account of her being asleep is accurate, as it leaves little time for her to assess the situation independently. Another conflict, the details of the morning's activities. So Malaya states the children were outside playing without their knowledge. Well, Daniel provides additional context about Lily entering the bedroom multiple times and Jack being heard in the kitchen earlier. Malaya's account is vague, stating only that the children were outside playing, but we weren't aware of it at the time. End quote. She does not mention specific interactions with the children that morning. Now, Daniel provides more detail. Noting that Lily came into the bedroom multiple times and that he was not in a deep sleep, suggesting he was aware of the children's presence earlier. He also mentions hearing Jack in the kitchen, consistent with his earlier interviews. Now, Daniel's account paints a picture of ongoing activity by the children, which contrasts with Malaya's claim of sudden silence. The lack of specificity in Malaya's narrative, compared to Daniel's detailed recollection, suggests she may be omitting or misrepresenting details, possibly to simplify or obscure the morning's events. So the broader context of Evil Exists perspective. They frame the disappearance as highly unusual, noting the lack of evidence for wandering or abduction and suggesting foul play. They focused on Daniel Martell's repeated interviews, which introduced new inconsistencies, and Malaya's limited public statements, particularly her single on-camera interview. Evil Exists skepticism about Malaya's instantly calling 911 and the discrepancies in the parents' stories align with the broader public and media scrutiny. This as seen in sources like CTV News and the Chronicle Herald, which also highlight timeline issues and family tensions. Their video emphasizes the absence of physical evidence, no footprints, no trace of Lily's strawberry backpack, and the significant time gap between the last sighting on May 1st and the 911 call on May 2nd. This gap, combined with the parents' conflicting accounts, fuels suspicion that critical details are missing or being withheld. Now let's talk about the implications of these conflicts. There will also be credibility issues. So that an implication of this conflict, there's going to be credibility issues. The differing accounts suggest either miscommunication between Malaya and Daniel or intentional misrepresentation. Evil Exists' focus on Malaya's use of instantly implies she may be exaggerating the urgency to deflect scrutiny, while Daniel's detailed narrative raises questions about why Malaya omitted similar specifics. Also, potential foul play. Evil Exists' suggestion of foul play aligns with the grandmother's belief in the previous video of the interview we haven't seen yet here. I'll link it up here in the description so you can go check it out. The inconsistencies in the parents' story, particularly Malaya's implausible timeline, could point to an attempt to obscure events that occurred between or before the 911 call. Implication in family dynamics. The conflicts may reflect underlying tensions as evidenced by Malaya's departure to Colchester County and her blocking Daniel on social media post-disappearance. These actions suggest a fractured relationship, which could explain why their accounts lack alignment. Implications in investigation challenges. The discrepancies complicate the RCMP's investigation as they must reconcile conflicting timelines and determine whether the parents' inconsistencies stem from stress, miscommunication, or deception. The lack of transparency from the police, as noted by the grandmother, reflect their efforts to navigate these contradictions. So in conclusion, the parents' accounts of the morning Lily and Jack Sullivan were reported missing on May 2nd, 2025, contain significant conflicts, particularly the timing and sequence of events, the awareness of the children's absence, the immediacy of Malaya's 911 call, and the details of the morning's activities. Malaya's claim of instantly calling 911 after a joint search effort is contradicted by Daniel's account of acting alone while she was asleep, creating an implausible timeline. These inconsistencies, highlighted by the narrator's skepticism, raises questions about the parents' credibility and suggest missing or obscured details about the children's disappearance. The lack of physical evidence and the parents' divergent narratives fuel speculation of foul play, aligning with broader concerns expressed by family members and media. Further investigation, including additional statements or evidence, would be needed to clarify these conflicts and uncover the truth behind Lily and Jack's disappearance. Friends, let me know what you're suspicious about in the comments section below. I'll leave a link to Evil Exists' video in that comment section, and if you don't mind, hit that thumbs up because it helps us out in the algorithm. And finally, peace!